And now it's a time to move to the intense and powerful Friday talk. So, friends, I met Arjun in our Empowerment Talk podium, and when he spoke, he really touched me. So, not only me, like there are lots and lot of people came to our podium. They said, "Now this person have real power in his words. It comes from a long career. It's come from a long experience. It's come from a lot of intense knowledge he acquired from his long career." It's my great honor to introduce Arjun Iyer to you today to take us through this intense conversation, which will help you to find the real purpose in your life as well. Over to you, Arjun, sir.
Thank you, Faisal. Thank you so very much. It's wonderful, blissful, bountiful to be here at this 5 a.m. meeting. And I usually don't get up this early in the morning, so I'm wondering whether I am awake or whether this is a dream. But I wouldn't know, right? Because when you're dreaming, for the most part, you don't know that you're dreaming. It's only when you wake up that you realize post facto that, oh, that was a dream. And so one makes you wonder, if that is the case, then how do we know we're not dreaming right now in this physical realm, right? And waiting to wake up into a higher state of consciousness. Great morning to all of you. It's lovely to be here. This transmission, this transmission is called Rise Again. And we, as we're listening to this transmission, are going through a transition. And this transition is being referred to as the virus, the challenge, Corona, COVID-19. And as we're going through this transition, perhaps not everyone is tapping into the possibility for transformation. And my talk to you today is about not just transiting through this time, but transforming through this time. And I'm going to be very focused in my talk today. My talk today is about money, is about cash, is about wealth, is about affluence, is about bucks. That is the focus of my talk today. Our greatest challenge through this time has been the emotions of insecurity, being uncertain, at least for the most part, being uncertain about what tomorrow holds with regard to a continued opportunity to earn money, and therefore allowing us to support ourselves in the manner that we choose to support ourselves. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about money, and there are two aspects of abundance. I will use the word abundance, and I'm going to give you a few other words as we go along. And the two aspects of abundance are receiving abundance. And would anyone like to guess what the other aspect of abundance could be? If the first aspect if there are just two aspects of abundance, as I say there are, and one aspect of abundance is receiving abundance, what do you think the second aspect of abundance could be, in your humble opinion? Go ahead and type it up. If one aspect is receiving abundance, if there are two aspects of abundance, thank you, absolutely. Yep, there you go. Yeah. All right. Okay. Naveen, I think you've typed it to me privately. Oh, okay. It says, okay, all right. So the messages come to me privately. It doesn't kind of go on a group chat, is it? There you go. Okay, there you go. Giving, yeah. Okay, there you go. Fantastic. That's right. Receiving abundance and giving abundance. Now, like I said, my talk today is going to be very focused. And I did say I'm going to talk about money. And I did say now we have agreed that there are two aspects of abundance, receiving abundance and giving abundance. In my humble opinion, and from the experiences that I've had with a number of you in this Zoom room, as well as with hundreds of people across a number of nations, I have found that for the most part, you and I do not have a challenge when it comes to giving. for the most part, you and I are not too stretched when it comes to altruism and giving in the form of not just money, but also in the form of giving compliments, giving love, giving affection, giving attention, giving adoration, giving adulation to others. There are, most of you in this room are very service oriented. And so if I do spend time talking about giving, perhaps that might be a little bit of waste of our time, because that's something, in my humble opinion, that you guys are doing already. Therefore, my time today is going to be focused on receiving. You receiving money, you receiving abundance, you receiving wealth. Give me an acknowledgement that that is indeed a subject that would be of interest to you, and then I'm happy to proceed. Okay, so today is about receiving abundance, receiving money, receiving wealth. And I know I have a limited amount of time with you here today. And when I do law of attraction coaching with people, I take them through certain processes and also areas of awareness. My idea today will be to share a little bit of both, a little bit of process in the form of questions. I love questions. I love abundance-based questions. I love abundance-based questions in the area of receiving, and also awareness in terms of learning to think about money, affluence, wealth, and abundance in a slightly different way than what we have been thinking thus far. Whatever you appreciate, appreciates. Whatever you appreciate, appreciates. Gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation is the ultimate form of receivership. So whatever you appreciate, appreciates. The corollary to that is the more you complain, the less you obtain. And you, me, we are sometimes guilty of getting into that area as well, of complaining, and very often complaining about things that we don't control. My teacher, Basil Harris, my mentor and guide for 22 years now, taught me many years ago. He said, don't complain about something that you can't do anything about. And isn't it unfortunate, sad, regrettable, that a large percentage of humanity sits around coffee tables or shisha and complains about things that they have absolutely no control over? And that is a massive waste of time and a massive block to the receivership of abundance or the receivership of wealth. Okay, good. All right. So now I'm going to put in some words into the chat. These are words. All right. There are 8 words in all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'd like you to read these words. Okay. I'd like you to read these words. And from these words that are in the chat, I'd like you to do 2 things. Right? I'd like you to do 2 things. All right. Number 1, I'd like you to choose, you as an individual. There's no right or wrong answer. This is your personal preference. I'd like you to choose the one word of these 8 words that you most resonate with. Imagine we are at an ice cream parlor. There are 8 flavors of ice cream, and you choose that one word. The second thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to give a tiny few words or a sentence, it just explaining why you chose that particular word. And I see some people have started choosing some words already. Okay. Yeah. 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 Great. Yeah. Major Narayanan, you're asking me a question. The sentence that I said is, the more you complain, the less you obtain. Okay. Very good. Fabulous. Great. Okay. And just, if you could explain as well a little bit about what made you choose that word. So there are 8 words. You're choosing from those 8 words only, right? A tiny bit about, there you go. There you go. That's fine. Whatever you type is okay. More than communicating to me, I'm asking you to communicate to yourself the reason why you've chosen that word. What are the 8 words? Somebody said. All right, I'm going to type in the 8 words once again. Here we go. Here are the 8 words. Choose a word. Ask yourself, what has caused me to choose this one word out of all the other words? And then give us a tiny explanation in just a few, like a mini sentence about what made you choose that word. Fabulous. Great. Excellent. Now, I'd like you to contemplate this as you're looking at the chat window. I'd like you to observe how out of those 8 flavors of ice cream, you had different people choosing different flavors. Isn't that right? And the way I look at it, everyone did not choose one word. In fact, pretty much everyone is choosing different words. Isn't that right? Yeah. Nod your head up and down if you agree. Isn't that right? Yeah. Okay, great. Excellent. Now, have you noticed another thing? That every single person who explains why they've chosen a word has a valid reason, a solid, concerted, valid reason explaining why they've chosen the word, and it is a heartfelt conviction that this is the reason why I believe that this word is a word that I resonate with. Do you agree with that? Yeah? Isn't that right? So when you put out an explanation as to why you chose that flavor of ice cream, you put out that explanation with conviction. So we all have preferences with regard to the word we chose. We also have a rationale as to why we chose that particular word. And then the question comes, where do our preferences come from? Because what makes us different as people is our preferences. And then the question is, where does your preference come from, and where does my preference come from, and where does his and where does her preference come from? And the answer to that is our preferences. Our preferences come from our beliefs. Our preferences come from our values. Our preferences come from our attitudes. Our attitudes, our values, and our beliefs define what our preferences are. And our preferences are expressed in the form of linguistics or language. And in this instance, we are, for the purpose of the seminar, using the English language to express those preferences, which are essentially a representation of the belief system that you have willingly or inadvertently chosen to subscribe to in the here and now. And where do our beliefs, our attitudes, and our values come from? Our beliefs, attitudes, and values come from our nature and from our nurture. Our nature is our DNA. We inherit. We have a proclivity to certain behaviors and thoughts, beliefs, memes, definitions, thought patterns. We tend to inherit that through our DNA. And we also learn certain memes, behaviors, beliefs, definitions through our nurture. And our nurture is the environment that we were primarily exposed to in our youth, growing up as a child, and the environment that we choose to put ourselves into deliberately as we get older and get on from there. So that's what causes us to believe certain things. That belief causes us to exhibit certain behaviors, and those behaviors cause results, outcomes, end results, which can be in the form of abundance, lots of abundance, or lack of abundance. And at many points in time, you and I in our lives experience abundance and we experience lack of abundance. We are at a time right now where when we look around and communicate with people in different parts of the world, we observe that a large portion of humanity is experiencing fear. And the reason they're experiencing fear is because a certain amount of abundance, a certain assurance of abundance, which was being provided to them just prior to this virus challenge breaking out a few months ago, was suddenly taken away from them. And now there is a paucity or a lack of abundance, which is causing people to behave or to exhibit fear. Okay, let's get on with it. So we spoke about receiving abundance and giving abundance. And today I'm going to focus on aspects of receiving abundance. I would also like to say that one of the blocks, one of the reasons why we as human beings stop ourselves from receiving abundance or probably a big reason, particularly in conservative cultures and largely I've noticed in Asian cultures, what blocks us from receiving abundance is the one emotion, and that one emotion is guilt. We are guilty to receive. When somebody offers us, sometimes, and notice this is one of my questions as well, and it's a tool that I use when I'm teaching people prosperity thinking, and I work with entrepreneurs and individuals who want to develop prosperity thinking. And here's a question that I'm asking you to ask yourself. And here's a question: how do you usually respond to praise and compliments? And be honest. How do you usually respond to praise and compliments? What is the exact feeling that you feel when somebody praises you or when somebody compliments you? And don't give an answer that is impressive to this audience. I'd like you to look within and imagine that you're in a private space where nobody is noticing you and somebody praises you. What is the typical emotion that we feel when we're praised or complimented? And in this group, maybe the responses may be typical or atypical, I don't know. But my next question to you is, how do you think most human beings outside this chat room respond when they are praised and complimented? And thank you. Now I'm getting some answers. And I like what Venkata Sumathi over there has said. Shy and ask yourself, oh, do I deserve to receive it? So we're often reticent. We're shy, we're fearful, we're resistant even. We're guilty to receive a praise or a compliment. I've noticed this sometimes with women. Somebody compliments somebody on a top or their hairstyle and they say, oh, no, it's nothing. I just bought it at the store and I didn't pay much for it. Oh, it's no big deal and so forth. And it's no different with men also. Very often we feel embarrassed. We feel shy. In fact, sometimes our brain says thank you, but our body feels resistance. And that is something that blocks abundance from coming to us, because praise and compliments is a form of abundance. Here's my next question. How do you usually respond when someone gives you a gift? How do you usually respond when someone gives you a gift? What is the exact feeling that you feel? Again, these are rhetorical questions. Don't give me an answer to impress me. I'm asking you more to think of the true feelings that you feel when someone gifts you a gift. Once again, these are rhetorical questions. Do you know what a rhetorical question is? A rhetorical question does not necessarily deserve a response. It is a question that you introspect on, something that you think about when you look within, saying, hang on a second, do I really feel excited and grateful? Or do I tell the other person something like, oh, you shouldn't have done this. Why did you? Oh, you didn't have to. Oh my God, why did you do this? That happens, doesn't it? And here's the last question. Well, there are many, but in this set of questions, how would you respond? How would you respond to an unusually large amount of money that suddenly and surprisingly comes to you? How would you respond to an unusually large amount of money that suddenly and surprisingly comes to you? And here's a question where people, there you go. I can see Srinu shaking his head up and down and smile with all teeth, etc. Now we're like, oh no, why did this money come to me? Who gave it? Was it a mistake? Should it have come? I think maybe I should find out from the bank. And all of this thing now coming up where we don't feel like receiving the money, or we don't even believe that it is entirely possible that someone could have given us a gift, or an investment might have come through to maturity, or somebody who has owed me money for 12 years went for a meditation session, had a realization, and decided to pay the money back, and he borrowed this money from me 12 years ago. It's entirely possible. And all these examples that I gave are real stories that have happened with real people who have had unexpected mystery credits into their bank account. And all those mystery credits have been bona fide credits that the person had forgotten that money was supposed to come, or an uncle passed away and he didn't even know who this uncle was. And suddenly an inheritance kind of popped in. And this was a form of abundance. And this person was suddenly surprised. Questions help you to introspect how open you are to receiving abundance. And let me now take you through the 5 valid forms of abundance. 5 valid forms of abundance. 5 equally valid forms of abundance. Form number 1 is money. Money is a form of abundance. And money is meant to be received. And often people debate about, hey, is money good? Is money bad? Basil taught me many years ago, money is neither good nor bad. Money is neither good nor evil. Money is just a tool. Money is what you make of it. In fact, money makes you more of what you already are. So if a person is innately greedy and the person suddenly receives a lot of money, she becomes more greedy. If a person is innately compassionate, kind, philanthropic, and altruistic, then she, upon the receipt of money, becomes more kind, compassionate, philanthropic, and altruistic. Money is neither good nor bad. Money is merely a tool. Money makes you more of what you already are. In fact, in many cases, the true character of a person is revealed when the person suddenly receives a large sum of money. And we've seen that played out in society, particularly with political scandals and business scandals and so on and so forth. Money is the great revealer. It brings about what is within you. Think of yourself as a tea bag. And when a tea bag is put in hot water, what's inside comes out. Isn't that right? That's exactly what money does to an individual. It makes you more of who you already are. It reveals the true you to you and to the rest of the world. The character of the person is revealed with money. Money is a valid, V-A-L-I-D, very valid form of abundance. Very valid form of abundance. And you and me as human beings have got to learn to open up to the receptivity of money, particularly when we are conditioned to believe, perhaps sometimes through religion and occasionally spirituality and growing up, that money is evil. Because you and me notice people out there who do evil things with money. We believe that it's the money that's evil. No, it's not the money that's evil, because for every one person that does harm with money, there are 100 people that do good with that money. It's just that the media focuses on the one and not the 100, because it's bad news that sells, not good news that sells. So it's a misconception that when you become rich, you become evil. It's a misconception. It's actually less than 1% of people who are wealthy who do quote unquote evil deeds. More than 99% of people with wealth do beautifully amazing things, and they don't even want recognition. That's why we never hear about them. The first form of abundance is money. The second form of abundance is barter, exchange, or trade. Barter, exchange, or trade, which means exchanging a service for a service, exchanging a product for a product, or exchanging a product for a service. I had a friend of mine recently who provided a service for me in my business. This was in the early days of the coronavirus. He did something for me with regard to my business. And he said, Arjun, instead of paying me money, why don't you just offer me a coaching session free? So I coached him as a payment for the services that he offered me. In fact, I've done this with a few people in this environment as well. So it was an exchange, it was a barter, it was a trade, and there was no cash involved, okay? There was no monetary equivalent to it, but we decided to put a value to the service he provided me, and I decided to put a value to the service I provided him. And number two, a barter or a trade is a valid form of abundance. And when you treat that, so when somebody offers you a barter or a trade or an exchange, and you feel the same happiness or excitement as you would feel upon the receipt of money, now you're treating the second form as a valid form. Are you with me, guys? Most of us feel happiness and excitement when a check comes in, but we don't feel as much excitement when we're offered a barter. And I'm talking about the 5 forms of abundance from an energetic perspective. because money is energy exchange. And I'm going to explain this energy exchange in these 5 forms. And form number 1 is money. Money is a form of energy exchange or abundance. I'm just staying with the word abundance, but we can use these words interchangeably. You decide the linguistics, the language, the semantics that you want to choose and assign to these processes. I'm fine with that. Money, number 2, is an exchange, a barter, or a trade. The third form of abundance is just a gift. Somebody just giving you a gift, just a gift. And a gift can be tangible and it can be intangible. And in all honesty, I'd like to share with you a classic example of a friend of mine who gave me a gift during the coronavirus crisis. In fact, he gave me this gift twice. I think Satosh is smiling because he knows what the gift is. I don't know if I've told you about this, but I have I have a favorite beverage. All right, it's a beverage that I have once in a way, and this is a malt beverage, and it's a fermented malt beverage that I like to consume occasionally, preferably cold, quite cold. So it's a beverage that I'm fond of. In a conversation with a friend, I expressed my preferred brand of my favorite fermented malt beverage. Some of you are with me, okay? There you go. And in less than 24 hours, he arrives with a crate of 24 cans. This is right here in Dubai where I stay. In less than 24 hours, the security bell rings and I'm like, I was surprised. And he lands up and gifts me 24 cans. I don't consume so much. So I started giving some cans away to other people who are also fond of the same beverage. This is an example of a gift, excitement, a valid form of abundance. It's a gift received, and I gave some cans away. 2 months later, he gives me 24 bottles of that beverage, again in another format. Gift received, gift received. I'm receiving another gift in the next few days. This friend of mine is gifting me, well, she's actually gifting me money, but the money is going to go, she says the gift, I told her I want to do a healing session with a particular healer in the United States. I've identified who the person is. The fee is $100. So she's gifting me that healing session. She says, I'm just going to pay the $100 for that. This is a gift from me to you. Okay. So whether it's a spiritual gift or whether it's a gift that involves spirits, it's still a gift. Gifts are a valid form of abundance. And you can get a tiny gift, and you can receive a gift which is tangible, and you can receive a gift which is intangible. Tangible gifts could be this beverage thing that I spoke about. Innumerable times people have gifted me with a meal in the restaurant where they've not allowed me to pay. Innumerable times you have received the gift of somebody buying you, whether it could be an expensive meal in a classy restaurant, or it could be just a little fast food in a food court like a burger or an idli sambar that costs just a few dirhams or rupees wherever you are. It is still a valid gift that's received. And if we can feel enthusiasm, excitement, thankfulness, gratitude, appreciation for that number, the third valid form of abundance, as we would for that first valid form of abundance, now we're activating the channels of receptivity of abundance flowing into our life. The first form of abundance is money. The second form of abundance is exchange, trade, or barter. The third form of abundance is a gift. And the gift can be tangible, it can be intangible. Walking on the street, perhaps there's a child who just smiles at you, and that smile is a gift. Music in the background that turns up spontaneously is a beautiful gift. It's intangible, but it's a gift. A hug that somebody gives you, a touch on the shoulder, a warm handshake, a kiss. Communication, an expression of love, that's a gift. And when we can treat that also as a valid form of abundance that is being received, as we do the receiving of a check of say $10,000 or 100,000 rupees or whatever the amount is, I don't know, make up an amount. If we can feel the same amount of joy, excitement, gratitude, appreciation for that third form of abundance as we do for that first, now we're opening up the channels of receptivity. The fourth form of abundance. The fourth form of abundance is synchronicity and serendipity. Synchronicity and serendipity. I love these words. At least in the last 10 years, I've based my whole life on the tenet, on the principle of synchronicity and serendipity. And let me just make it easy for you. You can Google these words and learn nice, pretty words to talk about. There's a whole history of the etymology of the word serendipity, of the three princes of serendip. All right, and go ahead and find out about that story. It's a cute little story about how negative things turn out to be positive things. But synchronicity and serendipity is basically this. It's right time, right place. Put your hand up right now if you've ever in your life had an experience where you've just happened to be at the right time at the right place and therefore something good happened for you. Just give me a wave if at some point, we've all had that experience, right? You're like, wow, I just happened to be there. And then you say, that's good luck. Isn't that what we say? Oh, I was lucky that I happened to be there at that right time and at that right place. Therefore, I met him, her, he, she, they, them, and my life transformed. Synchronicity, serendipity is the fourth valid form of abundance. So the first valid form of abundance is money. The second valid form of abundance is exchange, barter, or trade. The third valid form of abundance is a gift that can be tangible or intangible. The fourth equally valid form of abundance is synchronicity and serendipity. And when you just show up and happen to be there, right time, right place, and now we recognize, recognize, recognize that, oh my God, this is abundance, and feel the same joy as you would were you receiving that 10,000, 100,000 check, whatever, lottery ticket. Now you're opening up a channel of abundance because you're extending validity to this fourth form of abundance. And the fifth form of abundance, five forms of abundance. The fifth form of abundance is three words. All three words start with the letter I. The fifth form of abundance, and I know I'm getting close to closing time, so I'm going to start wrapping up now. The fifth form of abundance is information, imagination, and inspiration. Information, imagination, and inspiration. And I love talk. I mean, I can talk about each of these words with regard to the energy contained in these words. Information, form, actually coming into form. Information is knowledge. But let's say somebody presents you with an article, a book, a link, or a sheet of paper, or you happen to come across some information that suddenly gives you an advantage, which allows you to now perhaps buy a stock or take some action which now leads to good fortune for you because you had that information at that time you could do it. You might say, hey, that's synchronicity. Yes, it is also synchronicity. It doesn't matter. You can mix and mesh these forms of abundance. Sometimes form 4 can overlap into form 5, form 2 can overlap into form 3, and this is possible. That's perfectly okay, all right? So the availability of information to you suddenly created something positive in your life, and now that is a form of abundance. And if you can extend validity to information as a valid form of abundance, now you're opening up a fabulous channel of abundance for you. And the second I in that is imagination. Imagination. And sometimes you're just imagining and creating ideas for yourself. Perhaps imagining a new business idea, a better way to frame your resume so that it becomes machine readable. Imagining perhaps a process improvement idea in your company that can now save your organization a stack load of money. Imagining an outing that you've now created for your family that can create joy for them. Just imagination. That's information, there's imagination. And having that imagination is a download now, which is a form of abundance. And when you treat it as a form of abundance, it now gives a signal to the universe that you are open to all forms of abundance. And the third I is inspiration. Inspirado is the etymology. The Latin word inspirado leads to inspiration, in spirit. And inspiration is just the feeling of joy. The feeling of joy, the feeling of enthusiasm, the feeling of peace, the feeling of elation, the feeling of knowing Just that. And sometimes, you know, you feel happy and you don't know why you're feeling happy. And that's entirely possible as well. And treating that as a valid form of abundance, saying, oh my God, feeling as much excitement for that as you would if a sudden 10,000 US dollar check showed up in your bank account, is now communicating to the universe that I treat that as a valid form of abundance. 5 forms of abundance. Number 1, money. Number 2, exchange, barter, or trade. Number 3, a gift. Number 4, synchronicity and serendipity. Number 5, imagination, information, imagination, and inspiration as the 5 valid forms of abundance. And when you extend validity to each, and when you treat each form as equally valid, when you feel genuine gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness to each of these forms of abundance, you have now eschewed, you have given up, you have abandoned your reluctance to receive at an energetic level, at an emotional level, and at an intellectual level. And now when through this abandonment of the reluctance to receive, you have opened up more channels of abundance to flow from you, which includes money. Then the money comes. Usually the abundance comes in indirect forms, which when you're giving appreciation for a non-money form of abundance, that's when money comes in. But when you insist on a ratio, no, out of these 5 forms, Arjun, I want 80% of my abundance to come from money, and it's okay, we can divide the 20% among the other 4 forms of abundance. No, that's not how it works. The ratios keep changing time and again, and it can be anything that comes in at any time, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to close, because I've got a few minutes, with 3 questions, which is again a tool. I did ask you a few questions earlier, which is also a tool set that I've used on receptivity and prosperity thinking. 3 questions that, and I've been using this recently as well, as recently as a coaching session that I did yesterday, to help you to open up to more channels of abundance with the awareness that there are 5 valid forms of abundance, and it is essential to extend appreciation and gratitude to all these 5 forms. So now let me close with these 3 questions, and these again are questions that you ask yourself. Introspective questions, contemplative questions, rhetorical questions, coaching questions, self-coaching questions. And here is the first of the 3 questions. Question number 1. Question number 1, what are the reasons? What are the reasons? Put the word money, but you can change that to abundance or money. I leave it up to you. What are the reasons that I deserve to receive money? You can put out of 3 questions. What more reasons are there that I deserve to receive abundance? Now you scratch your head and say, oh, but I just answered the question. Well, this question is, question number 2 is question number 1 on steroids. Question number 2 is question number 1 on steroids. We're just putting steroids into question number 1. That's created question number 2. What more reasons are there that I deserve to receive abundance? And typically when I'm coaching, I like to divvy these questions up as a day 1, day 2. So on day 1, I get people to contemplate what are the reasons, question number 1, that I deserve to receive abundance. And then the person comes back to me with a list, and we go through the list and thank them and compliment them and recognize them. And on day 2, I say, okay, now your assignment for day 2 is what more reasons are there that I deserve to receive abundance. All right. And you might want to do it as a day 1, day 2. It's a lot of fun. And if you are somebody who is a leader or inspiring or coaching other people, I would recommend a day 1, day 2 format. And there's the reason for that is the conscious, subconscious mind, lots of reasons. Don't want to get into that, but there is a rationale, a scientific rationale for that. The third question is a question which I encourage my coachees when I'm taking them through prosperity thinking. I say, listen, I'd like you to answer this question every day for the next 21 days. So this is a 21-day question challenge. It's called, so after you do day 1 and day 2, question 1 and question 2, now you start the 21-day question challenge. And the 21-day question challenge is this. What new reasons are there today that I deserve to receive abundance? Question number 3, which is your 21-day question challenge. What new, NEW, reasons are there today that I deserve to receive abundance. And I might suggest to you that when you're answering these questions, put your humility aside. Don't be humble. Let your animal instinct come out, and doesn't matter what comes out. I've had people write things like, I bloody well deserve to receive it because I am a deserving human being. And that becomes a reason. I'm like, great, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. There's no greed in that. There is just a feeling of absolute deservingness that I deserve to receive this. And now you open up that channel. This will not make you a bad person. This will not make you mean or rude or insensitive or unkind or inconsiderate. This actually helps you to work on the receiving side of abundance. And now when you balance that with what most of you, all of you already are, which is the giving side of abundance, you have now arrived at the platform of prosperity. And from this place, the economy may be bad. The economy may be bad for the masses, but it is always good for the masters. Did you hear that? The economy may be bad for the masses, but it is always good for the masters. And the mastery is what I've shared with you in the last 45 minutes, and I'm out of time, so I'm going to hand right back to Santosh. Thank you very, very much.